Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Now, although he's a pirate, Shanks is a very noble person, and is always seeking to help those who are by his side regardless of the situation, even if it costs him his life or something else in the process. For instance, during the past, we saw that Shanks lost his arm to save Luffy from a Sea King, something unbelievable since Shanks is extremely powerful, even back then. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the reasons why Shanks allowed the Sea King to rip his arm off without trying to do anything to prevent this event from happening. Before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it keeps motivating us to make more content. And if you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, as we know, Shanks is a somewhat enigmatic character and always seems to follow his own path for his own purposes. And we often see him as a tyrant pirate, while other times he's seen as a diplomat who wants to make things come out the best way possible, or at least maintain neutrality in the world. One of the biggest, or at least most important events that may have been in his life was that time he spent with the little boy who had the dream of becoming a great pirate, which we know as Monkey D. Luffy. Now, in one specific instance, Shanks sacrificed one of his arms in order to save Luffy from having his life taken by a Sea King, something which Shanks could have easily done to avoid because he could have taken the Sea King's life, but instead allowed the creature to just take his arm. For quite a while, there was a great doubt in the air as to why Shanks would have allowed his arm to be taken instead of just fighting off the Sea King. And sometime later, we got the answer from Shanks himself. And this is a completely unexpected answer, but one that shows that he really does have a good heart and expected great things from Luffy after Shanks gave his arm in exchange for his life. As was said by Shanks, he gave his arm in exchange for this new generation of pirates, allowing Luffy to live and become a powerful pirate who could end up conquering the world. And this jives with something that he also said that makes us understand the lines that Shanks says after this happened. During the past, even before Shanks lost his arm, he had witnessed Luffy's attempt to prove that he was worthy of joining his crew. He and his crewmates watched the young child do something completely unexpected just to prove his worth, when Luffy had slashed right below his eye with a small knife. This was all an attempt to show Shanks and his crew that he was brave and worthy of joining the red-haired pirate's crew, something all the pirates were astonished but excited to see about Luffy. Next, we saw how they held a party at Party's Bar in celebration of Luffy's courage, and this was when Shanks berated Luffy for being such a fool and once again denied Luffy permission to join his crew because he felt that the boy was still just too young and inexperienced, and also that he couldn't swim. Then, after tricking Luffy into drinking some juice, Shanks told him that he and his crew would be leaving the village after 2 or 3 more trips, which Luffy said would give him the time he needed to learn how to swim. However, just then they were interrupted by Higema and his thugs of mountain bandits, and they demanded sake, which Shanks and his crew had just pretty much drank all but 1 bottle of. But Shanks, still the diplomat, offered Higema the last bottle. But of course we know that Higema broke it over his head because he felt it just wasn't enough to slake his and his crew's thirst. When Shanks tried to clean up the mess instead of retaliating, Higema threw Shanks' food at him and left, convinced that Shanks was a coward. And afterwards, Shanks and his crew just laughed at their own humiliation and how silly the scene was. Shanks and his crew acted as if this event was just insignificant and really didn't care one bit about what had just happened, and even found it kind of funny. But Luffy, on the other hand, was completely annoyed by how Shanks refused to fight back. So he tried to leave the bar, and Shanks tries to hold the boy to prevent him from doing something foolish, but realizes that Luffy had just eaten the Gomu Gomu no Mi while they were there, distracted by Higema. Shanks scolded Luffy for this, stating that it meant that he would never be able to swim again, which scared the young boy as he had impulsively eaten the devil fruit without even knowing it was one. A few days later, Shanks and his crew were getting ready to set out to sea, with Luffy being left behind again due to not being ready to truly be a pirate. Eventually, Higema had returned and took Luffy hostage when the small boy had insulted him. As Higema prepared to take Luffy's life, Shanks and his crew, having returned from their adventure across the seas, appeared nearby and taunted Luffy about his claim to have a punch as powerful as a pistol. Now, Higema warned Shanks to stay back. When Shanks started to approach him, one of his thugs put a gun to his head, trying to stop Shanks from approaching. However, Shanks just told the bandit not to point a gun at someone to scare him, as it was an inefficient thing to say. And right after that, Lucky Roo shot the bandit in the head, shocking all the bandits who witnessed the conflict because he moved just so incredibly fast. When the other bandits claimed that this was dirty play, Shanks pointed out that he and his crew were after all pirates, before telling Higema that he would never forgive someone for harming his friend, no matter what their motives were. Once back Beckman had defeated the rest of the pirates, Higuma tried to claim that Luffy was the one who started all this, but Shanks stated that it didn't matter because Higuma had a bounty on his head, forcing Higuma to throw a smoke bomb and then make his escape. Shanks was shocked to see that Higuma had disappeared with Luffy and frantically wondered what they were supposed to do next. But not long after, Shanks went out to sea and caught up with Luffy, who had just been thrown into the ocean by Higuma after the young boy still continued to taunt the bandit leader. But just then, something completely unexpected happened. A Sea King appeared behind Higuma and was watching Luffy drowning. The Sea King quickly ate Higuma along with the boat that he was on, and soon after was looking at Luffy as his next snack or target. Seeing the danger that Luffy was in, Shanks then jumped in the water and swam at an incredible speed towards Luffy to save him from the creature, and lost his arm while protecting Luffy from being devoured by the Sea King, whom he scared away with his powerful Haki, even though at the time we didn't know it was yet Haki. However, as Shanks was trying to calm down Luffy started crying about how Shanks had just lost his left arm defending him, only for Shanks to state that it was just an arm. This demonstrated that Shanks really didn't care about losing his arm because saving Luffy was something he had an obligation to do, and pinning his hopes on the young child who could become a great pirate capable of changing the world and thus the next pirate king. A little later, Shanks and his crew were preparing to leave the village, and Luffy told him that he would become a pirate on his own, and Shanks stated that Luffy didn't have what it takes to become a pirate, and this led Luffy to angrily proclaim that he would assemble his own crew with very powerful and loyal pirates to defeat Shanks along with his crew. And not only that, his main goal as pirate was to conquer the top and become the next pirate king. Smiling at this proclamation, Shanks gave Luffy his precious hat and told him to give it back once he became a great pirate, causing Luffy to start crying again. But this act proves again that Shanks really expects great things out of Luffy, waiting for this little child to become even stronger than he is. So when Shanks boarded his ship, Beckman, his right-hand man, told him that he really believed Luffy would become a well-known pirate, which Shanks agreed to because Luffy reminded him so much of himself and even his captain when he was younger. So as we can see, Shanks gave not only his arm, but also his most valuable treasure to Luffy, just to demonstrate that he really was willing to sacrifice everything just so Luffy could achieve his goal of becoming a great pirate. Even in the more current storylines, we've seen that Shanks watches Luffy's deeds from afar, being overjoyed at the little child he met in the past and seeing how he truly is growing into a great man who is constantly achieving bigger and bigger things in the world. Now, although they're rivals now, being captains of different crews as well as being Yonko, Luffy and Shanks still have this deep respect for each other. But they also look forward to the day when they can meet again, not only to catch up, but also to face each other. And it will be on this day that Shanks will truly see if he made a good choice in entrusting not only his arm, but also his most treasured hat to Luffy, a choice that may haunt him for the rest of his life. So with all that said, my friends, we'd now love to know what you think about it. Why do you think Shanks actually gave up his arm? I mean, we know that at that moment, he still had enough Haki, and most likely Conqueror's Haki, to easily scare away that Sea King. So why didn't he do it? Why was it important for him to give that arm and pretty much give up any chance of ever becoming the greatest swordsman in the world, just so he could see this young man grow up to become the next king of the pirates? Next, what do you think is going to happen when Shanks and Luffy finally reunite? Do you think it's going to be this heartfelt thing, or do you think we might see the real plan that Shanks has been brewing all these years along? Let us know what you think about all that in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video for the day, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching the video, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Be sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. I hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.